On Ogun State Television, I am Simiya Tabaru. You've listened to the different leaders in Nigeria at different points in times in the history of the country, and some would like to refer to them as a gathering of the establishment. When you talk about the establishment, you talk about past leaders. They are the critical stakeholders when we talk about Nigeria. And yes, what were they doing? Launching a book, and of course by one of the former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida. Of course, it happened on Thursday. Of course, here we're discussing the regret about the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election. He acknowledged that the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, MK Abiola, won the poll. And of course, different narratives came up at that gathering. We're here to discuss this with two gentlemen of the press. I have Dara Adebimpe with me on the program. Thank you for joining.
It's nice to be here again, and we thank our viewers for tuning in.
Lateef Sanusi is my second guest on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of this discussion this morning.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and it's actually good to talk about our nation because we don't have any other nation. It's just Nigeria that we have.
Okay, talking about June 12th, you know, as somebody that I think I was less than 5 years then, and of course we've read different accounts of what happened in that particular period, and you have people giving different perspectives to the issues based on where people were standing, the different people now. And that gathering yesterday, you know, brought a little bit of illumination into what actually happened in the past. And of course, for people that have read the book, or that people that are talking about the book, A Journey in Service by the former leader, we were told, you know, that this particular annulment was a regrettable decision, but it has to happen because of national security. I don't know how you feel. You were part of these processes. You witnessed so many things in this country, and that, of course, is one of those moments in the history of Nigeria. What does that picture of what happened yesterday actually did to the memory of June 12th?
Let me just start by saying that I'm not a pastor. I'm just an ordinary brother in the Church of God. The Bible says in Luke 12:2 that everything covered shall be revealed, and everything hidden shall be made known. You see, what we have had on the launch of the autobiography of our one-time military president, General Ibrahim Badamosi, was not something that has been hidden for so long. He has only confirmed. It's not a revelation. It's just another lesson for our political gladiators, the ruling elite, the social class, to learn one lesson, that whatever you do today matters tomorrow. And it is not you and you and you, your collectives, your circle alone that affects. You see, I want to say, as an active observer of June 12, I said active observer. I'm not an active participant.
Observer.
An active observer as a journalist. Because when the primaries of Chief MK Abiola, who we often say before I retired as a presumed winner, before he was eventually recognized by the government of former President Muhammad Buhari as a leader, as a president of this country. You know, when we witnessed the primaries in Jos, we knew that a new arising was happening in this country. When the elections was going on, even after voting had ended, by the time everybody got to know, because that day, on June 12th, everybody had the figures of the election. It was only for NEC, because they were called NEC now, the National Electoral Commission, led by a late Professor Onfun Uwosu, you know, that was having the responsibility of releasing the results state by state. every state have had the number of how the vote went. And it remains today, whether we want to rewrite history or do whatever, the freest election we ever had. The pan-Nigerian election that nobody has ever seen happen in this country. And it will have been an election that people, even the Western nation, the country we refer to, the countries we refer to as the most democratic nation, would have come to learn about, because it is not just democracy at work, it is a novel idea of how to conduct elections that was at work. So, and when eventually the thing was annulled, if you see the movement within the country, leading to Nadeco, leading to people going on exile, leading to how lives were lost. You know, you can imagine the intelligentsia, the journalists that you want to revert even for their proficiency in that profession, that had to be lost. You will know that quite enormous number of things, not just in terms of Naira and Kobo, can be recounted for what Nigerian lost. And that's why I said we should always remember tomorrow when we are doing things. That no matter where you are doing that thing, it will be revealed. Yes, Babangida has said he regretted, he apologized, but what can we do? Nothing can be done again.
All right, okay, nothing can be done. You know, that's what I've listened to people say about, whether he regrets the decision or not.
Okay.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah, fair enough. Whether it's fair enough or not, but that is the reality. You understand? And we have to live with that reality. And for me, I'll take kind of there's a way I look at it, and you know, I'm looking at it in a much more deeper way, because in a much more deeper way, in the sense that fortunately I was old enough to leave the annulment. Nobody told me the story. I witnessed it. I was in secondary school at the time.
Unlike some of us.
Yeah, I was in the secondary school at the time, so I actually know the story. I saw the process. I saw the election. Even then I wasn't 18, so I couldn't vote, but I was grown enough to know everything that happened, and I saw the election unfold, you know, before my eyes. And you know, when it was annulled, I remember the day that Babangida actually stepped aside. You know, I listened to the broadcast myself. They didn't tell me the story, so I understand all of these things. And I'm a Yoruba man, and the person that his election was annulled happened to be a Yoruba man. The person that took over in the interim capacity happened to be a Yoruba man. So I have my own sentiment as a Yoruba man. But beyond whatever sentiment we have to look at the larger picture. So when you are looking at the larger picture, fear or not, it is the reality that we have to live with. And of course, you know, for some people, for anybody that have also been in the leadership position, you know that there are some decisions. There can never be a perfect leader. There can only be a better leader. So no leader is perfect. I know there are certain tough situations that you'll be faced with as a leader. But for me, I think the hallmark of a responsible person and a leader is what Babangida just did yesterday. Owning up and saying that he actually took responsibility for
32 years after.
Yeah, see, when you're talking about the annulment, let me tell you one thing. What happened yesterday is not entirely new. The autobiography is just giving us, you know, specific perspectives of what actually happened. I watched an interview that Babangida granted years ago, about 5 or more years ago. He actually said some of the things he wrote in his book, only that he did not mention names. He spoke about the fact that not handing over to Abiola was not because he didn't deserve to be, it wasn't because he was not supposed to be handed over to. But he said that he did not hand over at that time because the time was not, it wasn't right at that time. to hand over power to Abiola.
Different forces.
And what he said, yes, and he explained it. He said when they had their coup in 1985 and they kicked out Buhari, that he also brought to power, like Shibaji said yesterday, that when they kicked out Buhari, they actually decided that that was going to be the last coup that they were going to have. And he said by the time the election was done and dusted, and it was to hand over power to, Abiola, he realized that even if he decides to hand over power to him at the time, in a short period of time, Abiola will be kicked out, and it will not be in the best interest of the nation because of what could have happened. You understand? So he now said, and the person that interviewed him was asking him, who are those people that will have kicked Abiola out? He said the regulars, those that have always been part of the coup. And for me, when he was talking about it, I know he was talking about the likes of Abacha, which is the name he now mentioned yesterday. So for me, what happened yesterday was just being specific. It's not something that is entirely new to what we know and what we saw happen at the time, because we know the kind of person Abacha was in government of Babangida when Babangida was ruling. So when the whole thing happened, we knew, as young as I was then, we knew what the role Abacha was playing. So it was only for Babangida to mention those names, which he eventually did in the book.
Okay, I think...
I just want to chip in this. If you know the military politics of that era, you will know that for him to have referred to Abacha as the force behind the killing,
the annulment
of the
should not be so. Because if Abacha were to be alive today, he will have his own kind of story to tell.
Of course.
And all those things that he said had been said by gladiators or by active participants in that era. Late Professor Omar Omori, the Director General of CDS there. That's the acronym I can remember, because it's for democratic study. It's a Center for Democratic Studies. Had written his own autobiography before he died. Nwosu did what he had, because it was so obvious to the Nigerian public then that there was a kind of an agreement between him and Abacha. There was nothing stopping him, even when he was relinquishing power, because I recollect, I can never forget June 12th, because after the election, that was the very following day was when my dad passed on. And my dad happened to be one of the most seniors of, the most past students of DBHS, which Abiola attended. You see, when he kicked the bucket, I said, oh God, they changed the date for the election. They said they were going to do another election on June 30, which never took place. And when we picked the day for our dad's burial, people said, have you heard that they are going to do election? I said, they aren't going to do any election. Because I knew what was on. The onus was on Babangida to have retired Abacha then, because he knew his antecedent.
Let me add to that, because if you're talking about all of this, I understand, and I understand the perspective that you were bringing in. Talking about that perspective, talking about the fact that there was agreement. That's why I'm saying that whatever Babangida has written in his book, for me, it's not new. If you're talking about the agreement, there were times Babangida spoke about the fact only that he didn't name names. He spoke about the fact that the point you are making is the fact that Abacha never wanted Abiola to take over. Babangida was
this man, a retired Colonel Abubakar.
Sorry, let me land on this. Let me just land on
Because of our time, we've spent close to 20 minutes talking about this particular topic. We also have different perspectives coming in. Some are saying it happened because there was international collaboration, conspiracy to this, different dynamics. At the end of the day, I was actually going to 30 seconds.
30 seconds. The point I was going to is that the agreement he was trying to explain is that Abacha had the conversation based on what we've had from the interviews of Babangida that he didn't want him to hand over power, and Babangida was looking for a soft landing. okay, you wanted this seat. I don't want to hand over to you. I can't hand over to Abiola. If I hand over to Abiola, I know easily he's going to get kicked out and it may be bloody and what have you. Okay, let me just leave the picture. Whatever you want to do. And that was why he brought in an interim. So it was a kind of soft landing for him. So it was a kind of, you know, in fairness to Babangida, the way I see it, it was a kind of soft landing for himself, for Abacha, and even for Nigeria. Because if Abiola had been on that seat, and if he had wanted to retire Abacha is a man that, you know, I don't know.
Okay, everything that happened
is the fact that, give it to Babangida, I don't know any Nigerian of substance that can have that kind of gathering of collectives.
And that is
that he had. And that is
why
something you should give to him, that he still has something in terms of substance, with control of this nation.
And that is why the time I see that they refer to him as the Maradona and the Ifu Junior.
Yes, we refer to that gathering as the gathering of the establishment. When you're looking for Nigeria, you have to look into that kind of gathering, because the who and who of the nation was actually present at that gathering. Thanks to the former leader, the former president of Nigeria, we call him military head of state. I think he never wanted to be referred to as a military, so he has always wanted to be the president. Exactly. So at the end of the military. So he is somebody that a lot of people revert so much. And in different description, you know, at that gathering, you would see that he's a man of substance. Moving ahead on the program, we will be talking about Osun State, what is presently happening in Osun State. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi SAN, on Thursday called on the Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke to tell the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission to call off Saturday's local government election in the state. Before now, there have been different crises with court rulings, you know, taking local government elections had to be conducted, removal of the elected local government officials at some point in 2022, and of course, you know, another interim being installed by the current governor of the state, and now elections are expected to be conducted this particular Saturday. And of course, you also have the killings taking place in Osun State as well. You know, the people that the local government chairman that were told to return back based on the...
To now say this is how they want to run government, it is a bad image. Yes, it's another sad commentary on the judiciary, because what the judiciary is doing again is another sad commentary on Nigeria's political democratic development. Look at the case of June 12 that we are seeing. A Justice Ikeme at midnight on Thursday night, 2 days before the election, gave an injunction that June 12 must not go. And that is what Association for Better Nigeria wrote on. No thanks to this man from Abuja who's going to meet his maker. You know, it's so sad. Again, look at what is happening in Osun State. The outgone or the immediate past governor, Oyetola, conducted election at the twilight of his government in 2022 for local government. An election that APC never did for 12 years. He did it, yes, he has done it. The question now is, what do we do as opposition party? Local government matter is always a preserve of high court within that state. Yet the opposition went to federal high court to seek a restraint, which they got before the former governor was sworn in. Immediately the former governor came in, he signed an executive order saying that all these people should not take office. I mean the local government chairman in Osun. And they knew their right, they appealed. Had it been they didn't appeal, that would have been the case. That was what June 12 suffered. Nobody appealed against the Ikeme case. Nobody went to court against the annulment, and so it was a free rein for the military to do whatever they want to do.
Everybody was afraid.
So no, we can just say it now because it's a foregone conclusion.
It's just talking about the legal process.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you see, look at the situation of Osun. A party appealed the Federal High Court judgment, and Akure, 10th of February?
Yeah, 10th of February.
This year.
Yeah,
They give a ruling
11 days ago.
that yes, these people should be restrained. While I don't subscribe to hooliganism or hijacking of power by force, that must be respected. If you are saying democracy, democracy thrives with the recognition of the rule of law. We don't take laws into your hand. If by any means the governor goes ahead to conduct our election, it's a nullity already. That's just my own perspective towards it. And that is what the Attorney General was trying to say. One might say, yes, he was speaking on behalf of the party to which he belongs. But he's the Attorney General of the Federation and he was interpreting the law. Nobody can say there is a superior judgment to the Federal High Court than what we have in appeal court, except the PDP in that state had gone to Supreme Court against the Federal Court of Appeal of judgment of February 10th. We have not heard of such incident. And the governor, looking at the environment, what is the big deal in having an election when you have lost so many people? When the soul of Osun is still not settled? Why do we need an election now?
It's been a while that we have political killings, happening like we're experiencing in Osun State, where of course because of a particular position, you see that of course incident is what is leading to the death of the people involved, and I don't know what we can do to avoid that at this stage. And of course the Attorney General is also speaking to avoid more chaotic situation in Osun State. That election was not held.
Yeah, I think he has actually explained what the Attorney General has done. What he has said is actually anybody can understand, because when you look at the sequence which he has explained, the Court of Appeal ruling should actually be respected by the sitting governor. And for me, the political class will also want political solutions. But I think the governor of Osun State should think of a better political solution to the situation on ground, rather than going ahead with that election tomorrow. It's going to be another crisis, another challenge for governors in Osun State. And unfortunately, when you have these political gladiators, locking horns and all of that, the governance suffers, and we've seen a whole lot of it happen all over the country. Rivers, they are still battling with their own. And of course, we don't want a situation whereby Osun State will degenerate into that. The last time we had something so serious, that's of crisis, loss of life and that, I think that should be the time of Aregbesola and Oyinola and all of that. So since the state has moved on from that era, we've not had the kind of thing that we are now having. And I don't want a situation whereby that we actually degenerate into that.
There's a very interesting perspective to this. They talk about, and he was talking about the thugs, political thugs now. You have people that are followers of Party A, the APC for instance, and of course you have followers of Party B. At the end of the day, when decisions are made, in a democracy, you have them reacting overboard, especially people pointing at the leaders that they are in the best position to actually control them by way of what they tell them when those decisions are made at the court level, what direction it has to go. We look at what happened in the US, for instance, when Trump lost the election. The Capitol incident and how he was being prosecuted for fueling.
You're looking at the role that the leaders
should actually play
and
at
that
this
is
level.
That's very apt. It's very, very important because whatever ambition you have, you cannot govern an empty state. You cannot govern a dead state. If there are no people, who are you governing? If there are no, if there are no lives, what are you ruling over? So I think it's very, very important, both for both parties. But in this case, I'll talk more about the governor because I think it will do more good if it decides not to go ahead with the election tomorrow, which I think it's going to go a long way to calm some nerves, and it's going to send some messages to his followers and all of that. And that will also tell you what happened when former President Jonathan left office, and that is one of the things that a lot of people will remember him for, and that is what even made me to seriously fall in love with him till date, based on that particular singular act, and that is the hallmark of being a statesman, being somebody that your ambition is not bigger than the nation, it's not bigger than the society. When he lost the election, and we saw all of the Orubebe incident and all of that, former President Muhammadu Buhari came out to say that the president just called him, and that actually ended whatever agitation that anybody is having.
Okay, in case you want to be part of Reporters Lounge on Ogun State Television, this the studio line will be on the screen for you to join us and add your voice to the conversation. Of course, we'll be moving away from Osun State. We'll be moving to the National Assembly right now, definitely to talk about very interesting, development. You're talking about the Senate President and, of course, Senator Natasha Akpoti Udiega. We'll watch the video and we'll come back to analyze the issues.
Your point of order is sustained.
Order, please.
Nice to speak from there. That is the order of the Senate.
Sir, order 10 on privileges.
Asha,
Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice. A motion declaring that the content of breach of privilege has been
announced suspension immediately.
Or refer
People would say that women has a way of protesting, when they are uncomfortable with a particular decision. It's actually about seating arrangement. And of course, we were told that her seat was changed. And of course, she was sitting on the former seat, and then she was informed, and then she said, I'm not going to leave the seat. And that was why she wasn't recognized by the Senate President when she wanted to make an observation and all of that. So you see that behavior. Some said she doesn't need to behave that way. You have to obey the rules in the House. But of course, she has something to say. She had to protest, which was why that reaction came. As a lawmaker.
Yes, you have something to say. But I always go back to my earlier remarks when we started this program. People should always think of their actions against tomorrow. A similar scenario happened during the era of Saraki and leadership at the Senate, together with the current Senate President. He wanted to talk where he was not meant to be, and where he was, he said there was no mark there. Saraki refused to recognize him, and he was shouting. However, that was in the past.
Okay.
Looking at the present scenario, it's so unfortunate that it has to do with the gender
opposite gender.
With an opposite gender this time around. And when it comes to the issue of the opposite gender, it's an issue that you want to fill for the opposite sex, particularly when you look at the number of the females within the assembly.
Yeah.
You think that it looks as if she doesn't want females to be suppressed within that chamber.
Yeah.
However, I believe she didn't have to go to that level to express herself.
Okay.
You know, if the chief whip of the house, of the chamber, Senator Mbugunu, has explained the reason why her seat was changed, and she refused to vacate that seat for where she ought to be. And the Senate President was saying, you will not be allowed to talk until you move to where you are supposed to be, with the similar word that he was told during the era of Saraki. That was the scenario. But I don't know, I don't know what might have, the crossfires that might have gone behind the scene between the two. Because to me, it looked as if there is a kind of an undercurrent between the leadership and her. And because she needed not to have gone haywire, even though the president needed not to have
when we now said when we most of the time referred to Kama coming, you know, you to come after what you do unto others,
yes.
I would definitely come after you.
Yes,
Is that
yes.
more like saying that the Kama was playing out?
Exactly, exactly.
What happened during I think the 8th assembly.
Okay, 8th assembly.
8th assembly. When Saraki was the Senate President, and you now have this. I don't know your reaction to this.
Yeah, you know, let me start.
Kama would come in folds now.
Yeah, what goes around comes around. Let me start from there, you know, and that's why, you know, for me, leaders are not made. Leaders are born. And that's why when you talk about the world of football, you talk about the big boss, Stephen Kesh. He was a born leader. He wasn't made. And you know, when you're talking about leadership, a lot of people don't understand issues about leadership. It's easy to blame a leader. It's easy to be cantankerous. It's easy to do this. But when you wear the shoes of a leader, then you understand better. And that is exactly what has happened to Saraki in this case. And Akpabio in this case, you know, Akpabio was with Saraki. Yeah, exactly. What has happened to Akpabio in this case? And talking about the woman, I think for me, you know, I don't know, you don't have to lose it. And of course, even if you're angry,
you don't lose it, you don't get recognized. That's another kind of explanation that people
it doesn't work all the time.
Yeah.
You know, emotional intelligence is very, very important.
Exactly.
You can be, you know, very intelligent, but when you lack the emotional part, it's a big challenge. And of course, when you're emotionally intelligent, certain situations you are going to handle. I'm not accusing her that she's not emotionally intelligent. I have to put that on record. But I'm just saying that it's very, very important to have that, so that when certain situations occur, you handle it better.
When you now look at the background of the house, where at some point they throw chairs, at some point when they fly over fences and all of those things, and you look at that background of what we do have in the National Assembly, and then you're looking at this and say, oh, this is just a child's play, sort of.
Yeah, what is bad is bad. You know, you don't take bad. It may be bad, and what a situation can be more, I mean, it's just like you're talking about an injury. It may be more serious. One may be bad than the other. But the fact remains that an injury is an injury. What is bad is bad. Exactly. So, you know, talking about throwing chairs, throwing punches and all of that, those are the dark eras. Ugly incidents are witnessed. And thank God we are getting over it.
It's not peculiar to Nigeria,
I know, but I'm saying that, you know, the fact that it happens somewhere else doesn't make it right.
Some people would even say that to be complete human, we need dramas like that. It's more like a flavor. It's a negative one, especially because when he talked about the future, what people would look at, especially the younger generation, you want to see.
Can you say that was a good example?
No, that's what I'm saying, that it's not really a good example, but at the end of the day, they talk about incidences like this makes us human, sort of. You just have an overboard reaction, which is not supposed to be, especially for people that are leading the country at this critical time. We have, younger people looking at them and seeing, the kind of courage they have and why it is important for them to continue to carry themselves in a positive light. So we shouldn't be having the negative part, notwithstanding.
And more importantly, like you said, when the Chief Whip, Senator Tayo Mogolo, when he cited the Senate rules, they actually state that, explaining the fact that, seat adjustments, while within the powers of the Senate President at that point, you should, and going ahead and saying, I'm not afraid of you, you can't, you don't do that.
And then we all get angry. The Senate President,
we all get, even the Senate President, so I'll blame me, I don't think it needed to go to the extent of telling the Sergeant at Arms to kick out of the Senate chamber. I don't think the Senate President
and at some point we've heard comments from the Senate President saying that this is not a nightclub, some sort of thing. So maybe, like you were trying to talk about the undercurrent, like maybe there are some issues, maybe they've not been able to resolve a certain differences.
Whatever issue you are, so it's just like
everybody is exercising their powers. No, whatever the President has the power to do anything.
Whatever issue that you have with anybody, what I say is that you have to stay professional. When you are professional, the job comes first. That is their place of work. They were doing their job. So they have to be professional about the way they, conduct themselves. So whatever personal issues that they have, it's none of our business.
Should be secondary. Okay. Because of our time, we have less than 10 minutes to go. We will be taking another very important discussion. The court grants portable 2 million naira bail. Once again, speaking on social media. We'll take the video and we'll be back for the analysis. Stay with us.
Once again, he finds himself in trouble. This time, Portable has beaten off more than he can chew. Habib Okikiola, known as Portable, allegedly assaulted and obstructed town planners Abidemi Onabanjo, Ramon Latif, and Akinpelumi Oyero while they were performing their duties at Odoguba, a venue owned by the musician. He turned himself in on February 19th after being declared wanted by the State Police Command. Portable was subsequently arraigned in court on 5 counts, including felony, assault, and armed conduct likely to breach the peace. After pleading not guilty, his counsel urged the court to grant bail, claiming Portable is now remorseful.
The state took over the matter from the Commissioner of Police. And as it is now, the matter is with the state government. They are the one prosecuting. So that was why the court stood down for the state to bring a proper charge before the Honorable Court.
How many charges?
There were 5 count charges against him and others that were arraigned last week before this Honorable Court.
What are the charges?
The first one is that there was conspiracy. When crime happened, they will say that 2 or 3 people conspired to commit the offense. So there is conspiracy, there is assault, there is possession of cutlass to injure some persons.
You have the different charges, against Portable, and of course, the most interesting part was the fact that he was told not to say anything on social media, and I don't know how he will be able to comply with that. Maybe as time goes on, we would just see him as someone complying to that, because that guy.
They always say that behavior is like a smoke. There's no way you can handle it. But I don't know those who are managing him. He has forgotten once. It boils down to the issue of tomorrow.
Okay.
Who are those managing Portable? What kind of image are they trying to prop out of him to sell him? You can't be somebody without a manager that manages you to comport you for your public image. Because this kind of personality that is presented almost every now and then, you can only appeal to a set of people for a period of time. A time will come when everybody will just ignore you. Already the state government has described him as a serial dissident. You know, you can imagine they say he's a serial dissident and unrepentant rascal.
When you look at you know, Portable, for instance, you also would like to talk about the era that we are in, era of social media. You are popular and you make money because of controversies, and he has been at the forefront of controversy every now and then. Talking about our profession and why it is important to stay professional, you talked about the managers now. How are you going to also handle the other part? The more controversial you are, the more money you make on social media. So that's another angle.
It doesn't work in all instances. I'm telling you. It's only a phase. It's a period of time. It can only appeal to certain sentiments within a period of time. After some time, you become nobody. You know, at the twilight or at the almost passage of time of the renowned musician, you know, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, you know, there are certain sections that he was appealing to. You know, people will know you at the time when it comes. It is not every time because we have social media that you'll be making money every time. When that time comes, you know, do you think our society will remain as we are today? No. It's a dynamic society. Okay, a set of people will rise up and say, all these shenanigans, we don't want it again.
All this, some said he's been deliberate with what he's doing just because of the, you know, the state publicity stunt and all of those things. Did you see it that way?
Yeah, for me, I think I do. He knows what he's doing before he was arraigned. Anyway, the other two charges that the woman didn't mention is possession of gun and causing injury. Yes. And conducting himself in an unruly manner. Those are the 5 count charges. Talking about whether he knows what he's doing, he actually does. Before he was arraigned, he made a video of him, saying that he's not mentally okay. He has a card with the psychiatric hospital in Abeokuta, and you know, at the court, he was asked, and he said he was okay. So he knows what he's doing. But for me, I think talking about the management, you know, it is the era of people, you know, trying to have their own record label and all of that. And, you know, when you are the boss of your record label, you also dictate, you may not listen to your management. I recall when Kenny Ogungbe, one of the partners of the Kenny's Music, when he was asked about Two-Face having baby mamas. And he spoke about the fact that when he was with them on Kenny's Music, they were kind of guiding and guarding him against, you know, having these women in his life. And he said when he left and he started his own record label, there was no control they could have over him. So I won't, to some extent, I won't really, what he needs is just, I don't know, maybe a divine intervention, because he actually knows what he's doing. Okay. And I believe he should learn his lessons. That is what is important.
Okay, it's not about today.
These things don't last for
It's not about today, it's about tomorrow. And of course, he has followers. That's one thing that should be taken away from this program today. The future is always very important. Whatever we do, we write in history. And what we do today becomes history tomorrow. What kind of history do you want to be told about you? Thank you so much for being a part of Reporters Lounge. Sanusi Latif, we enjoyed your insight on the program. Thank you for joining. And Dara Adebimpe, thank you so much as well for enriching the program with a wealth of experiences and knowledge. Of course, next week will be another time on Reporters Lounge. Tonight, you can watch the repeat version of the program. Until then, keep fit.